Welcome back, guys. Last week you would have seen all the downers. However, when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way up. So we're back into the Delica now. We're not stressing about the broken motor or anything. I've managed to pair the motor and box together after hours. Now it's time to slide this thing back, see where it's going to sit, and then we can finally knock up some engine mounts and get this thing on a roll. There's 2/5 of skull space to fit anything. So we're going to make something from nothing and make this thing work. Cut all these engine mounts off, and I'm just going to build like a C-section plate off here, a flat tab there, and so you can still access the nut from the bottom. And just getting them back far enough because these tappet covers seem to be fouling on the firewall. So whether that needs some manipulation or not, we'll see how we go. Oh yeah, just a big shout out to that Facebook page. Definitely check it out if you want to be misled and read wrong information. It's really good and helpful. So I'm knocking up the engine mounts now because they're on an angle. Of course they can't be easy and straightforward. This angle, 75 degrees, obviously that's 90, 75, and then we're gonna, this motor's not even sitting straight, but I've measured this height, found out the difference, ended up being 85mm height for the mounts. Don't ask me how the mass adds up there, but it might not. I'm just going to bend up some 6mm plate in like a C-section shape, and then a top piece with a slot in it. I used to like it until it got cursed by some spicy demon from somewhere. The engine mounts are in, it's sitting on its own weight now, which is pretty exciting. And because of the way I've designed them, much to Sam's disgust, the motor is adjustable left to right. But see, the motor actually has to come this way more.
Which way?
This way. Rightio, so now we've got our engine mounts welded out and painted up. We're going to start doing the shitty job. So we've got our headers here. We're still not sure if they're actually going to work, but we've cut the end off. That old mate had already destroyed anyway. So we're going to try and put the motor in, line it up with the engine mounts, and then see what we need to trim out of this header to clear this steering shaft, because that is the hardest part of this conversion. Now, make sure you guys subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And Sam said, if this video gets 2,000 likes, I get a pay rise. So, please, if you think it's worth it, please. Rightio, so the motor is in. I actually kind of had a win with it. It kind of went in easily. So I've just bolted up the driver's side manifold, which was meant to be our trouble side with the steering shaft. But it looks like everything you read on Facebook is wrong. And the steering shaft is completely fine. It clears, but the manifold does touch the cab a little bit there. Whether we just give that rip tear bust with a sledgy and make some clearance, or maybe shave down the side of the manifold, and put like a plate in there or something to stop that hitting. Now I'm going to try and test with the other side, hopefully it fits, and then we go from there. Well, looking at that, that's not going to fit. These manifolds are way too wide, so we're definitely going to have to get some block huggers and then go from there.
Hi, it's me, Sam. I wouldn't recommend going to China and eating bats, but I'm back in action. We have some dramas. There's two things we can do here. We can either just set this thing on fire because everything's gone wrong, or wait for the parts to arrive and move on to something else. And I think we're gonna go for option B. So whether it was Mitch or the demons that are in this car, the engine flipped over before, and we've done a little assessment of the damage, and it's broken one of the timing pulleys, which is connected to the cam, so the whole timing chain needs to come off, and we need to replace that. We need to replace one of the water inlets from the radiator. A lot of the harness got broken and the plugs, so, and need to fix all that. So we're waiting on a harness, we're waiting on some smaller headers which are going to fit this motor, and we need to do some repairs. So there's not much we can do in the next 2 days, which means we're going to move on so you guys have an episode. Like I said, we're going to fill in some stuff on other builds as we do other things. So one thing that hasn't been kind of touched for a little bit is the XC. So we sort of finished the build. It had to go to 3 different events. We got the car there, but it was never fully finished. So we're going to jump over to the XC, sort the brakes out, the steering, and let you know what's happening with the intake manifold and the fact that it just never was running properly. So let's try and get that sorted. Okay, the XC is still a thing. I do really want to get this thing finished so we can drive it and shoot flames and do all the things I wanted to do with it, but we're waiting on some bits. So I've sent Mitch down to NZ. We're gonna get one fitting that we need. The guy that plumbed this up before didn't run it with the power steering system, so it was kind of plumbed differently, and we've worked out how it's gotta be. So we're gonna come out of the power steering pump into the brakes, from the brakes into the steering orbital, so we should have boosted brakes. That'll sort that problem. Intake manifold, we're gonna do the same setup again, but double stack the gaskets. Actually, come in here and I'll show you what I mean. We had the biggest gasket I could find, which I think worked, but it wasn't suited for water. So it was an oil resistant gasket, but it needs to be water resistant as well. And it basically went soggy and created a leak. So I've got a different material, Interface Performance Materials, made in the US of A. Sounds good, but it's also quite thick. We're gonna double stack it, use like 3 tubes of silicone, and hopefully it'll seal this manifold. And then we can get the thing running properly, idling, and we can get someone to tune it and get it working. So that's the mission in this episode. We're gonna try and get this manifold back on and get the XC running again. So let's rip into it. Okay, while Mitch is finishing off the rest of those brake ones, I'm going to tell you something that happens when you have a manifold blow up on you. So it essentially just puts a ton of water into the motor. So we didn't run water in it for ages, and when I thought the leak was fixed, we put water in it, and then as soon as it got warm enough to pressurize, it kind of blew through, and you actually get kind of like a milky, like when we emptied the sump, you'll get this milky looking oil. So in order to get rid of that, it's actually not bad with the old Chevys because they have a mechanical pump. So I've still got this tool that we use to prime the oil pressure when we built the engine. We actually use that to push the oil around the motor, and we just got as many litres as we could of the cheapest, shittest oil we could find. And you pretty much just keep recirculating it, dumping it into the sump, putting more in, recirculate it until it starts to look a little bit cleaner. So that's what we're gonna do now. So we can, because once you got water in there, you're gonna have issues with it rusting. So, because it doesn't get driven daily, the actual bearings around the crank will start rusting because there's little bits of water inside the oil. So it's pretty handy that this is off. We can just dump oil in there, circulate it, and hopefully we see some milky colors come out that eventually turn clear.
Welcome back to the channel. The Delica's on the back burner, so I'm gonna do some ASMR gasket cutting. Fuck. I'm doing what had to be done. So we gotta, because we can't actually buy gaskets for this because it's full custom hectic for us. We're gonna have to make gaskets, and the predicament we're in is we have to double stack gaskets. So this is a old skill that you learn in TAFE, and you say to your teacher, I will never fucking use this, because I never have. Like, this is the first time I've had to do this shit. So if you're in a trade, tell your teacher to get fucked, you'll never use this. But anyways, if you do need to use it for some unfortunate reason, should I show them how to do it? So you lay your gasket paper onto your surface, and then you cut out and trim your size. That's just the base cut. Now, you get your hammer and you start outlining all of your little holes by tapping where your holes are, and that'll give you like a nice little outline where to actually cut. If you have thin gasket paper, it'll actually cut through just with the hammer and you don't have to do this other shit. But if you have really thick gasket paper, it gives you a nice little outline and then you can just follow that with a knife. Then for your holes, you use the center punch kit and punch out all your holes through a nice, clean, cut off hole.
Okay, gaskets are half done now. I don't know whether it was my fault or the mailman's fault, but I did order 2 sets of these gaskets and only 1 pack arrived. And I'm filming this Monday night, the night before this video comes out, which means we're not gonna be able to get this motor together in this episode. So we'll sort that out for next week, but 2 of the gaskets are made. And like we said, we're planning to double stack them with this setup. So we need to get the other paper, which is a shame. But I'm gonna end this episode on a high note now. Our winter range is in full flock at the moment. We've got a bunch of hoodies, trackies, all of that flying out the door. So what I'm gonna do for the next 3 days, if you click the link down below and grab something from the website, I'm going to do, I'd call it the cashback initiative. I'm gonna literally just drop in 200 bucks cold hard cash in a couple of orders put over the next couple of days, just to give back to you guys, and thanks for supporting the online store. So if you want to jump over, grab a hoodie, it's getting cold, these are super comfy, and we have our drip design as well, which is the grey hoodie. And for the girls, the full pink tracksuit. So anything you buy on the store, make an order, and someone will be receiving some cash back in their order. So that'd be awesome if you go jump over and check that out. Tag us on our Instagram because we are ramping up our Built Not Bought merchandise Instagram page. We have some exciting products coming very soon. Not merchandise, actual products for the workshop that we've been working on behind the scenes for the past few months, or actually a couple of years to be honest. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll get the XC finish, you get the Delica finish, but next week we are back onto the GU patrol. So we'll see you then.